We like to believe our homes are sanctuaries. We convince ourselves that walls and deadbolts are enough to keep the monsters out. But safety is fragile. It's just a feeling, not a fact. Sometimes the danger isn't waiting outside in the dark. Sometimes it's already standing in the corner of your room, waiting for you to open your eyes. Tonight, I have 3 terrifying true stories about the moments when that illusion of safety shattered. Sit back, lock your door, and let's begin. My name is Sam. I grew up in the deep, isolated woods of northern Minnesota. If you've never been there, you can't understand the silence in winter. It's heavy. It presses against your ears like water. When the snow falls, it swallows every sound, making the world feel incredibly small. This happened 2 years ago. My parents had left for their anniversary trip, leaving me alone in our single-story cabin for the weekend. I wasn't worried. I've never been afraid of the dark. And frankly, a weekend of solitude with just my video games. And the wood stove sounded perfect. On the second night, a heavy snowstorm hit. The wind was battering the walls, shaking the window panes. I went to bed around 1 a.m., burying myself under 3 layers of heavy wool blankets. Now, I have a habit, an obsession really, that I've had since I was a child. I have to slide my heavy oak closet door shut every single night. I make sure it clicks. I never, ever leave it open. I remember distinctly that night, pushing it closed and hearing that solid thud of wood against wood. I woke up at exactly 3:33 a.m. I didn't know why at first. There was no loud noise, no glass breaking. Just that primal reptilian instinct screaming that something was wrong. My room was freezing. The fire in the stove must have died down. I lay there for a moment, listening. The wind had stopped. The silence was back, absolute and suffocating. I rolled over, my eyes adjusting to the gloom of the room. That's when I felt my stomach drop into my feet. The heavy closet door was wide open, a gaping black maw in the corner of the room. My mind immediately tried to rationalize it. Did the latch fail? Did the house settle? I tried to convince myself to just get up and close it, but my body wouldn't move. I was paralyzed by a feeling of being watched. I lay perfectly still, controlling my breathing, pretending to be asleep. I strained my ears, listening for anything, and then I heard it. It was faint, but unmistakable. The sound of fabric rustling, swish, swish. It wasn't coming from the closet. It was coming from right beside my bed. I snapped. Panic took over logic. I couldn't lay there anymore waiting to die. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and flooded the room with light. I wish I hadn't. 2 figures, dressed entirely in black tight clothing, were standing inches from my face. They were leaning over me, studying me. They didn't scream. They didn't attack immediately. They just scattered, like cockroaches reacting to a sudden kitchen light. They moved with terrifying speed. They bolted out of my bedroom door, their boots thumping heavily against the hardwood floor of the hallway. I heard them crash into the kitchen table in their haste. And then, the front door slammed open, letting the howling wind back inside. I didn't chase them. I didn't try to be a hero. I locked my bedroom door, pushed my dresser against it, and huddled in the corner with a baseball bat, shaking uncontrollably until the police arrived 40 minutes later. They searched the house. They found muddy boot prints leading from the back door, through the kitchen, right to the side of my bed. They had tracked snow through my entire home, but that wasn't the worst part. When the officer asked me to check if anything was stolen, I looked around my room. My laptop was there. My wallet was there. Nothing was missing. But on my nightstand, exactly where my head had been resting seconds before, lay a rusted meat cleaver. It wasn't mine. It didn't belong to our kitchen. They weren't there to rob the house. They had been standing over me in the dark, weapon in hand, watching me sleep. I moved out the next day. I haven't been back to the woods since. College is supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be a bubble where your biggest worry is finals week or student loans. I was a junior at a university in New England, majoring in literature. I decided to take a specific seminar on Gothic horror. Ironic, considering my life was about to turn into one. The class was small and run by a teaching assistant we called Mr. Vance. Vance gave off a very specific, uncomfortable energy. He was too young to be a professor, but too old to be one of us. He had greasy hair that he constantly pushed back, and an intense stare that lingered a little too long on the girls in the front row. He smelled like stale coffee and old books, but not in a good way. I sat in the back with my boyfriend, Josh. Josh was the charismatic type. Fraternity president, charming, the guy everyone on campus seemed to know and like. He was the only one who could handle Vance's awkwardness. They formed this weird, unlikely friendship. Josh would stay after class to talk grades, or so he said. I thought it was nice of him to befriend the lonely TA. I started noticing things about halfway through the semester. Vance would grade my papers way too easily. He'd leave comments in the margins that felt too personal. Things like, "You have a beautiful mind," or "Come see me after class to discuss this further." I ignored it. I told myself he was just weird. Besides, I had Josh. Josh and I were serious. We were talking about moving in together next year. I trusted him completely. One weekend we were hanging out in his dorm room. Josh hopped in the shower, leaving his iPad on the bed next to me. It started buzzing. Buzz. 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 I tried to ignore it, but the screen lit up with a notification. File upload complete. Curiosity is a curse. I honestly thought he was planning a surprise for me, or maybe it was just homework. I picked up the iPad and opened the folder. It was named Project V. My heart stopped. Inside were hundreds of photos. Photos of me. But these weren't photos we had taken together. These were taken of me. There were pictures of me walking across the quad to campus, taken from a distance. Pictures of me eating lunch alone. Pictures of me sleeping in my dorm room, drool on the pillow, completely vulnerable. My blood turned to ice. Some of these angles were impossible unless someone was in the room with me, or unless Josh had taken them when I didn't know. And then I saw the screenshots at the bottom of the folder. It was a chat log between Josh and Mr. Vance. Vance, "She looks perfect in that blue sweater. Get me a closer shot next time. I want to see her eyes." Josh, "Done. But this one costs extra. My frat dues are coming up and I'm short on cash." Vance, "Just send the photos. The money is in your account." I couldn't breathe. The room started spinning. The man I loved, the man I slept next to, was selling my privacy, selling me, to my creep of a teacher to pay his fraternity fees. Every time Josh had been nice to Vance, he just making a transaction. I didn't confront him. I was too terrified of what they might do if they knew I found out. I took the iPad, walked out of the dorm, drove straight to the campus police station, and handed it over. Josh was expelled immediately. Vance was arrested for voyeurism, stalking, and soliciting illicit materials. It's been a year. I transferred schools and moved back home, but the trauma didn't leave when I left campus. I still check every mirror for hidden cameras. I still can't change in a room without turning the lights off. You never truly know who you're sleeping next to. I live in Seattle. It rains a lot here, which makes it easy for people and things to disappear into the gray background. I moved into a ground floor apartment 3 months ago. It was a mistake. I know that now. But at the time, it was all I could afford. The paranoia didn't start all at once. It was a slow creep. I started noticing a black beat-up SUV. It was an older model, maybe a Chevy, with tinted windows so dark you couldn't see anything inside. First, I saw it at the grocery store parking lot. Then, a few days later, it was parked across from my gym. I told myself I was crazy. It's a common car, I reasoned. Thousands of people drive black SUVs. But then came the laundromat incident. I go to a 24-hour laundromat on Tuesdays because I work the night shift. It's usually empty at 2 a.m. I was sitting on one of the plastic chairs, reading a book, listening to the rhythmic hum of the dryers. Suddenly, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. You know that feeling when eyes are boring into you? I looked up slowly. Through the glass front of the store, across the rainy street, the black SUV was there. Engine off, lights off, just sitting in the shadows. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for someone to get out. No one did. I packed my wet clothes into a trash bag, not waiting for them to dry. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my keys twice. I ran to my car, locked to the doors, and peeled out of the lot. As I pulled away, the SUV's headlights flicked on, 2 bright beams piercing the rain. He was following me. I didn't drive home. I knew better than to lead him to my door. I drove in circles for an hour. I ran red lights. I took random turns down alleyways until I finally lost him near the highway on-ramp. I got home around 4 a.m., locked every deadbolt, and pushed a chair under the doorknob. I collapsed on the floor crying. The next morning I woke up late for work. I tried to convince myself it was over. Maybe he gave up. I opened my front door to leave and froze. Taped to my door right at eye level was a Polaroid picture. My hands trembled as I peeled it off the wood. It was a picture of me, sleeping in my bed, taken from outside my bedroom window through the blinds. Scrawled on the white border of the photo in red marker were 3 words that still haunt my nightmares. You look peaceful. I broke my lease that morning. I didn't care about the deposit. I packed what I could in my car and drove 6 hours to my parents' house in a different state. I haven't seen the black SUV since. But last night, my dad came into the living room looking annoyed. He said, "Elena, do you know who drives that truck down the street? Some guy in a black SUV has been parked there with his lights off for 2 hours." My blood ran cold. I'm writing this from inside my closet. I have a kitchen knife in my hand. And I think I just heard the back door handle jiggle. Some horrors are supernatural. Ghosts, demons, monsters. But the scariest monsters are human. They are the ones who can pick a lock, the ones who can track a car, the ones who can wait in the dark. If you ever feel like you're being watched, trust your gut. Don't rationalize it. It might just save your life. Subscribe to Beyond Nature for more true stories. And tonight, check your back seat. You never know who's following you home. Sweet dreams.